Let's start talking about this chaos that we've seen in Parliament this week after Lindsay Hoyle was accused by my colleagues in the Conservative Party of buckling to pressure put on him by the Labour Party after they managed to avoid an embarrassing rout by their own MPs in relation to the issue of Gaza, or as the Speaker, Lindsay Hoyle, put it, a viewpoint I actually agree with, he felt compelled to do it because he felt if he didn't, he couldn't keep MPs safe. This story is developing, and now over 60, in fact 68 on the latest count, members of Parliament have signed a letter saying they have no confidence in the Speaker, who is meant to be above all of this. He is above politics. He is the referee. He is not meant to play for one team or the other. Lindsay Hoyle has got himself in hot water, Matthew, in relation to this issue, hasn't he?
Well, I think it is a problem that 43 SNPs is actually quite a big number. Yeah, it's a relatively small percentage of the overall 650 or whatever we have, but it is nonetheless a major political party in Westminster, and for its leader in Westminster to be calling for the head of the Speaker makes his position difficult. I don't think it's untenable, and I think he will stay around, but it is tricky because you have to have the support, really, of a wide consensus in Parliament if you're going to do your job effectively.
But we had, just before the break, Elliot Wilson, who's a former clerk in the House of Commons. He's been there. In fact, I know him from my time, still continuing, I might add, in Parliament, but he's no longer there. He said that no politician, political party should be given a veto over who the Speaker is. And surely, if the Speaker goes because the SNP called for him to go, it's giving one party a veto.
That is right, and I think that the leader of the SNP in Westminster was wrong to say that he doesn't have the confidence. All I'm saying is that given he has actually said that, that does make the Speaker's position difficult.
And we heard something slight different tone, both from the Leader of the House, Penny Mordaunt, when we were at Business Questions yesterday, where she said that it was, in fact, the Labour Party that had put the Speaker in such a difficult position, and they had impugned the honour of a very decent man. And also we hear from Rishi Sunak today. He's not quite condemning the Speaker. He's refused to come out and support him and say he has his confidence, but he says he has concerns. Are these concerns going to grow now you've had this signal from the Prime Minister that he isn't out there supporting Lindsay Hoyle?
I think we will have to see what happens next week, right? We will have to give the members of Parliament the weekend to think about this and for emotions to kind of settle down so that we know what's actually going on. What I would say is, I want to echo what the previous guest said, Elliot, who you said he used to be a clerk in the House of Commons, very, very experienced person, knows the procedures very well, and also the culture of Parliament, the culture of Westminster. And the culture of Parliament is that the SNP has this tradition of trying to disturb whatever is going on in the House of Commons to prove that the House of Commons, that power in Westminster does not work well, the procedures are not fair, and when they exist, they are not followed. So it is obviously in the SNP's gift to show that, look at the two major parties bullying us, this Scottish party, they're not letting us have our way. And this is their strategy. Every time they have an opposition day debate or whatever other motions they're doing, they're either trying to embarrass the Conservatives or they're trying to embarrass the Labour Party. At this stage, they're trying to distance themselves further from the Labour Party and show that the Labour Party is very bad, because obviously the Labour Party is threatening them in Scotland. So this is why I don't really
have a lot of pure politics in this, and that is the fundamental. So the SNP brought this motion forward. I mean, the Scottish Government and the SNP have no foreign policy remit in this country whatsoever. Members of Parliament absolutely have the right to make comment on foreign policy, which is what they were seeking to do. But I might say that one of these opposition day debates, whether it's the official opposition, the Labour Party, or the Scottish National Party, will have no impact whatsoever on government policy unless the government wants to change its position. So I question, what did this even achieve? But that fundamental accusation against the Speaker is that pure politicking changed the rules of the House of Commons to enable him to let Labour off the hook. As I say, he says, I believe him, that he's done it to keep MPs safe. Let's listen to that apology now on TalkTV, and you at home can make your mind up whether he looks like a man who is truly contrite.
I will reiterate, I made a judgment call that didn't end up in the position where I expected it to. I regret it. I apologise to the SNP. Just bear with me for a moment. I apologise, and I apologise to the House. And it has been said. both sides. I never, ever want to go through a situation where I pick up a phone to find a friend of whatever side has been murdered by terrorists.
That is the Speaker of the House of Commons, Lindsay Hoyle, clearly saying that he made a mistake. I think he did, but politicians from all sides of Parliament are making their own opinions known about why they think he made that decision. Rishi Sunak has said that we need to be careful following this event in Parliament this week that Britain doesn't descend into mob rule. What could he possibly mean by that? That's why we're asking you at home, do you think that has already happened? Has Britain descended into mob rule? And if it has, what should politicians do about it? That's why we want to hear from you on 0344 499 1000. But we also want to hear from you via text on 87222 because we do the joy of text. Careful how you say that. It's a bad joke, but I use it every week. If someone's got a better suggestion, you can also send a text in suggesting a better joke. But I still like it. So, Matthew, the joy of text, who have you picked up in terms of their comments today?
Well, I've noticed, may I just quickly nick your piece of paper, please, Stella? Thank you. I've noticed quite a lot of anti-MP sentiment this week, which is perhaps unsurprising, given that the sort of chaotic scenes outside of Parliament, as we've been discussing, were reflected by chaos inside Parliament. I mean, extraordinary scenes, weren't they, with the Tories storming out and the SNP storming out. Let me give this as an example. Nothing politicians can do until we get new politicians, says Mark. And my worry about this is I think anti-MP sentiment is dangerous, not only because we've got genuine violent threats to MPs, and you've already talked about, since you becoming an MP, 2 of your colleagues in the House of Parliament being murdered, but also because I hope and expect that the vast majority of you lot go into politics for the right reasons. Yeah. That doesn't mean it's not difficult. It doesn't mean that you have to toe the party line sometimes, because that's how our party system works. But I hope that you basically have the best of intentions. Doesn't mean we shouldn't hold you to account, doesn't mean we shouldn't scrutinise you, but I think the idea that somehow MPs just want to look after their own security and are not concerned for the rest of us is for the birds.
Yeah. And Stella, have you picked up on any of the texts today? Well, before you do, because I want to pick up on what you said, Matthew, give Stella a moment to have a look at them as you stole her sheet from her, just so they know at home why.
I forgive you. We like sharing as left-wing people.
It isn't quite as seamless as we hoped it might be because Matthew has been stealing sheets. But picking up on what you said about MPs staying safe, someone is... Stephen's texted and said, politicians should have no extra protection. They have caused this situation and they should suffer its consequences. Well, Stephen, if you're watching at home, I just thought I'd gently point out, because these threats are real, that as Member of Parliament in Rosendale and Darwen, I have had someone jailed for actively plotting to kill me. And when, Stephen, you're getting up in the morning and going to work and taking all the risks, working hard, supporting your family as we all do, I wonder if you have someone out there thinking, well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to murder Stephen on the way to work because of the job he does. I don't think there are many of the jobs that are like that. And that's why I support the Speaker in doing everything he can do to keep MPs safe, because I certainly want to return to my family when I've finished in the office.
That doesn't. I think there's an important distinction. Of course, we've got to keep MPs safe, and that's primarily the responsibility of our police forces up and down the country. We still shouldn't have Parliament bowing to the mob, and the Speaker himself has said he made a mistake. We have to be so careful that people who shout the loudest, and even violent people, do not dictate parliamentary procedure.
And actually, funnily enough, because I set the rules, there's a different rule every week, I want to pick up on Mike's text in as well, who said, isn't mob rule just a slanted way of saying democracy? No, it's not. Mob rule is, as Matthew says, is about those who shout the loudest being heard and getting their own way. Democracy is about the silent majority, people that sit at home and often say nothing, having the opportunity to vote every 4 or 5 years and change the way we are governed, not just do it through protest. Stella, what have you picked up?
So I have a very interesting text here, Jake, by Stu, who said, it's one particular mob that endlessly claims to be the victim, but in reality intimidates with the threat of violence anybody that disagrees with their narrow-minded and intolerant views. You know what, Stu? I think you are being smart here, and you think everyone knows which mob you're talking about. But the problem is that different people read this text and understand a different mob and a different intolerant view. So this goes to show how extremely divided we are as a society right now and how dangerous this is. Everyone assumes we all have the same.
But isn't it made more dangerous, Stella,
Yeah.
when Lindsay Hoyle, Parliament, the mother of all parliaments, changes its rules because people are literally screaming at the... I was there.
Yeah.
People are literally screaming at the gates and projecting genocidal slogans as regarded by some people. There's a bit of disagreement about that. Some people clearly feel that is a threat of genocide. They're projecting genocidal slogans onto Parliament and Parliament changes its rules. That is bending to mob rule. Surely it's completely unacceptable.
I think that as Mohammed said previously, the previous guest, just showing a message on Big Ben without doing any damage is not bullying. I don't think. I think they can just brush it off.
Well, I don't think you can brush it off by saying it's a flashing lights.
Yeah, I think it's just.
We heard from Matthew earlier about all
I think it's fine, and it's, you know what? It's really it is the slogan that the Israeli Prime Minister
Stella,
used.
if I projected a slogan on Parliament which was racist about any other group, which
it's
said,
not a racist. It doesn't have to be racist. Actually,
Anyway.
no, it's really not.
OK,
It's
well,
really
look, we're going to
not.
have to agree to disagree because